Hello and welcome to Insights with Thomas Caldwell on Thursday, March the 7th, 2024. Tom, this week the Prospectors and Developers Conference has been happening in Toronto. It's also known as PDAC. Typically there are about 30,000 people that come in. It's one of the largest mining conferences in the world. What are your comments, thoughts, or impressions of it?
Well, it's interesting as you walk through the crowds. First off, the second language I heard wandering through all the different booths, etc., was Spanish. Lots of activity going on in Central and South America. Very few Chinese this year relative to many of the other conferences. There was a lot of energy there. You know, I always enjoy it because these people promoting these companies, they're enthusiasts, they're optimists, they're entrepreneurs, and they're a little bit odd. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm probably a little bit odd too, but they're people who are trying to do something. And I always have a sense of sadness because eventually they will bump up against regulatory, legal, environmental, Aboriginal issues that will thwart. There was very little talking about Ontario. Ontario was a mining titan in terms of provinces, but lots of talk about Quebec, some of the rest of Canada, but everywhere else in the world. And I was also surprised that regulators, the securities regulators, that these people have to come through the regulators at some point in time, were not present, and the province of Ontario or the federal government. Mining is a very important, or was a very important part of our economic development in Canada, particularly in strategic minerals. But it was always talking about places other than Ontario. They should be showing up at these things, and because eventually governments have to tune into industry, what we're strong at, what we're good at, what we make money at. And so you encourage these people that they aren't working outside the country. You look at the great mining companies that were here in Canada, Ontario, they're all owned by foreigners now because we haven't nurtured this domestic industry as we should, particularly in strategic metals.
So what do you think about the stock market for the balance of this year?
Well, I keep saying this, the stock market is a misnomer. It doesn't exist. It is a market for stocks. It's really quite interesting because you say the stock market is like saying, well, humanity. There's all kinds of humanity. For example, last year, a lot of the tech, applied tech, the Amazons, the Teslas, they did really well. The rest of the market really did nothing. A market for stocks is different. You've got to sift through what's out there and look at opportunities. I know this is talking my position. We have one fund that we run is the Canadian Caldwell Value Momentum. And these fellows who work in that fund really dig in and they try to find the gems, the jewels that are out there in the economy that aren't recognized and look as if they have a little bit of movement starting. That's what I think you have to do in this market going through this year. You got to do your homework. I tend to invest in sectors, in the Urbana, which is the company I run, and that works out well. But this is a different. It's a market for stocks. You got to find the winners in there, and the winners this year will not necessarily be the winners of last year. So you got to do your homework. But as I say, that's that team we have working on that fund. I'm very, very pleased with. So great opportunities this year. But the stock market, you have these people with macro comments like me. Doesn't mean anything. Where am I going to make some money? What are the stocks within that market that are going to pay me back?
Well, thank you for insights, Tom.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Bye for now.